So maybe you're researching areas of where you want to live, talking to your lender about the pre-approval stage, and maybe even looking at homes with your realtor. But then all of a sudden, you find your dream home and you're like, what on earth do we do next? We didn't even think about the process of buying a home. We have no idea. Please help. Well, today you've come to the right place. I remember when I first bought my first home, my realtor didn't really mention what was going to happen over the next 30 days. It was kind of stressful and I was kind of lost. Today, I'm going to tell you exactly what to expect. Also, gone are the days where your purchase offer is 3 or 4 pages long in California. It's 29 pages now, at least. Later in this video, I'm going to go through the purchase agreement, kind of showing you how to fill it out, how your realtor should be composing the offer, making you a strong offer in order for it to get accepted. I'm Tilley, the British bloke. I'm a realtor here in Southern California, and I have people reach out to me from my YouTube channel all the time. And I help a lot of buyers. And yes, a lot of the time, maybe they're first-time buyers, people who even bought a house 20 years ago, and now they have no idea the process, and it can be confusing. So I'm very used to helping buyers buy homes, and today I'm going to break it down step by step, so it's very easy for you too. Also, if you don't live in California, you're looking for a realtor, reach out to me. I have realtors all around the country that I know and that I trust, and I'll be happy to refer them to you. Okay, the first thing you should do, even before you start researching areas, maybe schools, crime rates, etc., reach out to your lender. If you don't have a lender, reach out to me. I'll be happy to refer you one. But it's a really important part of the process. I have people who are looking for homes, they find their dream home, and I'm like, are you pre-approved? And they're like, no. Then they go to get pre-approved, and they realize they can't afford that house. They just plucked this number out of the air because they thought they could afford it. All of a sudden they can't afford it, and now they're looking for homes a lot cheaper, and they've just wasted 3 months of their life. Or they can actually afford more home once they get pre-approved, and they're starting again because they've got more of a budget than they realize. So the number one thing, get pre-approved. Also, a big myth. Most people think you have to put 20% down when you're buying a house. That is no longer the case. If you're buying a $300,000 home, for example, not many people have just 60 grand lying in their bank. Or if your home is $1 million, not many people have $200,000 lying in their bank. So yes, even conventional mortgages now, you can get a 3% interest rate. You might have to pay some mortgage insurance, but you can. Plus, you might think you can't buy a house because you have a really bad credit score. FHA loans right now, they're government-backed loans. You can get mortgages with a credit score as low as 580, putting 3% down. So say you're looking to buy a $400,000 home, your credit score is 600, you've only got $12,000 in the bank, you can buy a home. Plus VA loans, say you're in the military, say you're a police officer or a fireman, for example, you can buy homes with zero money down. That's an absolute, gosh, can you imagine buying a house and you'd have to put any money down? VA loans, you can do that. So speak to your lender, speak to me. There's plenty of different loans that can help depending on where you are in your life. It's not as scary as you might think when trying to get a mortgage. So you've got your loan, you're pre-approved, congratulations. Now it's about finding the home. First of all, the location. The location, if you ask me, is more important than the home, especially if it's your first time home. A lot of people, first time buyers, they want to get the perfect home, like their parents maybe have, double sinks, marble countertops, this and that. Chances are it's not your parents' first home. Maybe it's their third or fourth home. It's taken them a while to get there, and it should take you a while as well. Don't focus on getting the perfect home for your first purchase. You're probably going to be disappointed. Plus, the location is more important than the home. If you love where you live, but your home is okay, you're going to put up with it. But if you have a perfect home, but you hate where you live, you're soon going to get fed up with this home. So the location, if you ask me, more important than the home. So do your research. So now you're pre-approved, you've found the location, and you've gone house hunting, and you find your perfect house, and you want to make an offer. You've got butterflies, you're scared, maybe a sleepless night. What happens next? The first thing really, make sure your realtor calls the listing agent. Are they having multiple offers? How long has it been? on the market? Is there wiggle room? What are the sellers looking for? How can you make your offer more attractive than the other offers in order to get yours accepted? Do you have to reduce the contingencies? For example, there's 3 main contingencies when buying a home. Loan contingency. Generally it's 17 days standard. We usually reduce this to 12 to 14 days. Obviously talk to your lender. Can you get my loan approved in 12 days? They might say, yes, we can. If it's a bank, they often take a lot longer. I don't like working with banks. They get the job done. They're very hard to get hold of. They generally don't work weekends or after 5 p.m. and they take longer to get your approval. But they might be giving you a good rate, so I totally get it. So the loan approval, generally 17 days if you don't shorten it. Also an appraisal. If you offer $600,000, for example, on your home, your bank wants to know that the house that you're buying is worth $600,000. You're not just spending $600,000 to get your offer accepted on a home that's worth $550,000, for example. So what the bank does, they will get an appraiser. That appraiser costs you about $500, and they will go into the house, take measurements, look at comps, and they will say to the bank, yes, this is worth what the buyers are paying for it. That generally takes 10 to 12 days. I've seen it quicker, I've seen it slower. Once again, the general contingency on your form is 17 days. To give you a stronger offer, I usually knock that down to 10 to 12 days. And you get an inspection contingency as well. When you're buying a home, you 100%, even if it's a brand new home, you need to get an inspector in there. Your realtor should have an inspector that they know and trust. Once again, it's going to cost anything between $300 and $600 to go in there. It takes 2 to 3 hours potentially. You'll go there maybe for the last hour to have another look at the home. And then at the end of it, the home inspector, they're going to look at electrical, the roof, the plumbing, the flooring, the foundation, the windows, the appliances. They're going to make sure everything works. That gives you peace of mind. Now, don't worry, if you make an offer on a home and you get accepted, that doesn't mean you have to buy the house. You can back out based on any of these 3 inspections, the loan inspection. Maybe your lender, after doing some more work, can't get you the loan. Don't put anything on your credit cards when you're in escrow. Don't go buy big purchases. Don't lose your job. But this does happen sometimes. All of a sudden, if your lender cannot get you the loan, you can back out. And the earnest money deposit, I should have started with that. When you buy a house, within 72 hours of an accepted offer, usually in the offer, you write 3% earnest money deposit. So, for example, if you're buying a $500,000 house, you have to wire into escrow $15,000 within 72 hours, just to show that you mean business, just to show that you are committed to buying this house. This 15 grand is not at risk during the inspection contingency. Like I said, loan, appraisal. For example, if the house you're buying is $600,000, it appraises at $550,000. You don't want to come up. The seller doesn't want to negotiate and come down. You can back out based on the appraisal and get that $15,000 back. Also, say you do inspections, because you can't tell what the house is like when you're just walking through it. But say you do inspections, the roof needs to be replaced, 25 grand. Or maybe there's some mold that needs to be fixed, 3,500. You don't want to pay for this. You want to ask the seller to help you. Maybe you have $25,000, $30,000 of expenses that needs to be fixed. And you ask the seller for 20 grand. If they say no, we're only going to give you 5,000, and you don't want to do that, you can back out once again based on your inspection contingency. We're not happy with the house based on the roof. We don't want to spend this money. You can back out and you can get your earnest money deposit back. In my experience, generally asking for credit instead of the seller fixing stuff, the seller prefers that. For example, if the roof needs to be fixed, or if you have a termite inspection, there's $5,000 worth of termite work. The seller doesn't want to have to do the termite work while they're living at the house. The seller doesn't want the roof to be fixed, or people coming in to fix foundation or appliances, etc. They just prefer to be like, hey, we're going to give you $15,000 at close of escrow to go towards your escrow fees, your title fees, your lender fees. and you take care of it when you move into the house. Rule of thumb, that's usually the best way to go about it. And if you're enjoying this video, please like and subscribe. I do videos every week on what it's like to live in Southern California. If that's what you're looking for, hope to see you in my next video. And before you even get started, I'm going to tell you kind of how much it costs to buy a house right now. So there's no surprises, and you don't start going down this rabbit hole and then all of a sudden you've spent 2 months and you can't even afford a house and you start crying and you have to wait 2 years while you save up. Right now, it's October 2025, mortgage rates on a conventional are about 6.3%. So I've done the math. I'm not incorporating home insurance. I'm not incorporating property tax. If you wanted to buy a $300,000 home with just 10% down, pretty standard right now, 5 to 10% down payment. So $300,000 home, 10% down, you're looking at about $1,800 a month. Obviously, you've got property tax, which is 1.1% in California, the price of the home on top, and insurance. If you wanted to buy a $500,000 home, you're looking at about $3,000 a month for your mortgage. A $750,000 home, you're looking at about $4,600 a month. And for $1 million home, just the mortgage, you're looking at about $6,000 a month. So keep those now in mind. Can you afford that? Because that's what it's going to take. Now, if your home that you like's been on the market 30 to 60 days, maybe there's no other buyers. Maybe you just write your offer, it gets accepted, and then you open escrow. However, say you're buying a home, it's a popular home, there's multiple offers. You might write an offer for $500,000 and then you'll get a counter, a multiple seller counter saying that, hey, we've got other offers, give us your best and final, and then we're going to choose the best offer. Now, if that's the scenario, your realtor has to call that listing agent. How many offers do you have? How much information can they get out? How much above asking are we? Are there any cash offers? What do we need to do in order to strengthen our offer? And then based on that, usually it's best and final. You've just got to go in with your highest price. Like I said, maybe shorten contingencies. Always do 3% earnest money deposit, if you ask me. It shows that you're motivated. It shows that you're trying to get this home. If I'm a listing agent and I get a 1%, say I'm selling a house for $1 million, and the earnest money deposit, which has to be in escrow within 72 hours, is only 1%, $10,000. In my mind, and often in my sellers' minds, that person's not committed. Maybe they're just trying to get it if they can. But if it's 3%, $30,000, that shows that they want this home. 3% earnest money deposit in order to get the deal rolling, if you ask me, the lowest it should be. And also right now, commission's a big one. Are the buyers paying their realtor the commission? We can't afford to buy a house and also pay our realtor. Look, I've done a lot of deals since this law came into place, August 2024. Now, instead of the buyer's agent knowing what the seller is going to pay commission because it's in the MLS, now you just have to write it into your offer. So if I'm your buyer's agent, I just write that I want 2.5% to be paid to me by the seller. I'm not asking you to pay for my commission. And in all the deals I've done so far, 0% of the sellers have told me that they want the buyers to pay me. So yes, paperwork's changed, the wording has changed, but sellers are still paying commissions. Now, are some sellers in some states not paying commissions? Sure. But in Southern California, in competitive markets, if you ask me, the sellers are still paying the buyer's agent the commission. You're not going to be on the hook for it. So the escrow period generally on a residential property is 30 days. Once again, you want to be competitive, get your offer accepted. You could drop it to 25 days. Sellers often like shorter escrow periods. Some might not though. They want to get out the house, they don't want to be rushed. But yeah, generally, rule of thumb, escrow is 30 days. Escrow starts the day both seller and buyer sign the document. So even if you don't get the document to escrow the following day, it goes on when the buyer and the seller both sign. So that's when the clock starts ticking. Then you will have to call escrow. I never say email escrow to get the account number to wire the earnest money deposit, the 3%. Call them. Say, hey, is this Sage Escrow? My name is etc. Can I have the account number? Wire fraud is rife. This way, there's just less chance of you being done. And then you have 72 hours to go to your bank, or you can do it on your laptop and to wire the earnest money deposit. Then you have about 7 days standard to get all the disclosures from the seller. They're going to tell you everything about the house that you're buying. Are the neighbors nosy? Do they play loud music? Is there smell of marijuana? Were there dogs in the house? Did someone die in the property in the last 3 years? Did they have a leak? The sellers need to tell you everything that's happened to that house since they've lived there. And then you can go through there. And if there's anything you don't like, a lot of people don't like it if someone died in the house within the last year. If that's the case, you can back out, you get your money back. Maybe next door neighbors, they're a party house. You don't want to live next to a party house. If the sellers disclose that, you're not comfortable, you can back out. And you should get that within 7 days of opening escrow. And like I said, get the home inspector into the home as quickly as possible. You might have 12 days to do your inspections, but why wait till day 9? Get the ball rolling, get all the information as early as you can so you're not wasting your time on a home that you might not buy. Generally, as soon as I have an accepted offer, I'm calling my home inspector. I'm trying to get them in there 2 to 3 days later. And they do the general inspection. And getting them in there early means that if they pick up something with the foundation or with the roof, or maybe there's some mold, you can get someone in there in time who specializes just in that field. Like the general inspector can see maybe that there's mold, but you really need a mold specialist to get in there, see where it is, see what type of mold it is, and give you a cost of how much it's going to get fixed. That's another reason why start the inspections early. Then there's no rushing, there's no pressure from the other side if you're not meeting the deadline in time. And yes, I would recommend for you to go to the home inspection with the inspector. Now, if it's going to be a 3.5 hour inspection, you don't need to be there the entire time. But definitely go for the last 45 minutes. That way you can get another look at the home, maybe take some measurements for furniture, talk to the neighbors, see what they say about the neighborhood, and then speak to the inspector at the end of it. What about this? What about this? He'll tell you what he thinks of all the big ticket items, and you can ask questions, and he can actually show you stuff in the house if you have any concerns. Now, I've had people do Zoom before because they're at work, but I highly recommend, and your realtor should be there with you at the same time, listening, getting information to talk to the listing agent about if you do need to get credits. So you're there, the home inspector tells you everything, then you go back to your realtor. Maybe there needs to be a roof inspection. Anyway, 3 or 4 days later, everything's taken care of, and then you go to your realtor. We want to ask for some money. We're going to need to fix this. We're going to need to fix that. The quotes are coming in at $12,000, $15,000. We want to ask for $10,000. So you do a request for repair. Your realtor should call the listing agent and say, this is why we're asking for $10,000 because of X, Y, Z. And then the seller can come back and say, okay, here's the $10,000, we get it. Usually they meet in the middle, and then you can kind of negotiate back and forth. But what I love about credit, it goes to your closing costs. I would never if you get $10,000 back, don't take it off the price of the house. That might save you $100 a month on your mortgage. But if you ask for it in closing costs, that $10,000 is real money. That goes towards your $2,000 escrow fee, your $2,000 title fee. Maybe you owe your lender $8,000. All of a sudden, all those closing costs are wiped because of the money you're getting back from the seller. So yeah, when it comes to credit, get closing costs. Best bang for your buck. Okay, and here's the offer that you'll be sent by your realtor if you're making an offer in Southern California. It's 29 pages long, could be quite daunting. But the majority of it is boilerplate. It's not just specific for your deal. There's a couple of pages that are, which is the ones I'm going to be showing you. But just bear in mind, definitely read it. Ask your realtor any questions. But 29 pages, the majority of it is boilerplate. But here's the main part. The purchase agreement and joint escrow instructions. So as you'll see, property, they'll have the property address here. And then the first part here, purchase price. So they're going to enter the purchase price that you agree on. they're going to enter how many days you want escrow to be right here. Is it 30 days, which is standard? Or are you going to lower it to 25 days to get your offer accepted, make it stronger? Here's the initial deposit amount, 3%. I would recommend 3% here. That's going to be very standard and very strong. Expiration of offer, I would just leave blank. It's 3 calendar days. Generally, you get 72 hours. Once you send something in, they have 72 hours to respond. When they send you something, you get 72 hours to respond, unless you lower the contingency time frame. But on the expiration for offer, I would leave it as is. The loan amount. This is where you put in how much loan, how much are you putting down. So if you're putting 10% down, you'll put 10% of the purchase price. If you're putting 20% down, 20% goes in here. And then standard is conventional. So if you are doing an FHA or a VA loan, make sure that these boxes are checked. But if it's conventional, it can stay unchecked. Additional financed amount is usually left blank. Standard is primary. So if you're buying it as your first home, it's going to be primary. These boxes only need to be checked if it's an investment property, for example. Seller credit. We're moving into a buyer's market now, so there's more chance to get credit. Maybe you need help with closing costs. That's where this number would go. Generally, they're on offers. This is left blank. This is where your agent, 18A, your agent will write down how much they want to be compensated during the deal. For me, it's usually 2.5%. I know in some states, Texas, Florida, more of the eastern states, it's 3%. But generally, it's 2.5%. That is negotiable, and that will be negotiated between me and the seller. And if you're working with me as a buyer, you won't be on the hook for any commission. Right now, you should be getting pre-approval letters. So this box should be checked by your by your buyer's agent, just saying that you have a pre-approval letter. And then here are the contingency timelines. The loan, like I said, 17 days is standard. Speak to your lender. Try and drop it to 12 to 14 days just to make your offer stronger. The same with appraisal. 17 generally is standard. Try and knock it down to 10 to 12 days to make your offer stronger. An investigation of the property. Once again, 17 days is standard. I usually do 10 days. I can get my inspector there 2 or 3 days. So if you're in multiple offer situations, it's all about making your contingency stronger than the other buyers. Insurance. It's hard to get in. It's harder. It's not hard. It's harder to get insurance now in Southern California. Don't wait to day 10 or day 14 before you start shopping around for home insurance. Get it straight away. I would lower this down to 10 days as well. Speak to your realtor, or your lender. They should be able to help you with insurance. But 10 days. These you can leave. I usually put 10 days. This gives you 10 days to review anything that the seller is going to send you. This is an important section. This should be filled out by you and your realtor, letting the seller know what you want left in the home. If you want the stove, got to tick the box. If you want the refrigerator, tick the box. The washer, dryer. So all of these, if you want that to stay in the home, you've got to tick this box. Otherwise, they're going to be able to take them with you. Usually when you're buying a home, you want the washer, dryer, you want the oven, you want the refrigerator, because it saves you money. Also here, the seller. Whenever I'm doing these offers, the seller is paying for the natural hazard disclosure form. It's about $99. Have the seller pay for it. In here, put inspection report, paid for by the buyer. Put termite report, paid for by the buyer. Smoke alarms. In order to get an appraisal through, you need working smoke alarms. You need working carbon monoxide detectors. When I'm writing an offer, that's on the seller. They should be putting those in there. The same with government required point of sale, seller, and seller. Escrow fee, usually each to pay their own. The escrow fee is usually split between the buyer and seller, each to pay their own. Owner's title insurance, the seller's going to pay for that. So make sure that your realtor is putting it down the way I'm showing you. This for me is a very good way to write an offer. County transfer tax fees, city transfer tax fees, the seller. HOA transfer fees, if there's an HOA on the building, often there is in Orange County, for example. Once again, the seller. Don't have your realtor put you paying for these. These fees add up real quick. And then a home warranty. Often, if it's a multiple offer situation, maybe you can waive a home warranty. But usually, I have the seller pay for a home warranty up to about $750. That should get you a really good home warranty for the year. The rest of this offer really is the generic sections. And I've had deals that have been real smooth. You write an offer, it gets accepted, you do inspections, not much wrong with the house, you ask for a couple of grand, they give it to you. Your loan's easy, it appraises, everyone closes after 30 days and goes, wow, that was a really great experience. However, there's usually some issues. That's why you've got to work with a realtor who picks up their phone, answers your questions. If you're sitting at home spinning out, your realtor's not calling you back or answering their phone to ask the questions, it can get really stressful. Often in stressful situations, don't make decisions just like that. Sleep on it. Talk to your partner. Talk to family. Talk to parents who have maybe been through the situation before. But always lean on your realtor. Your realtor should be there giving you advice. They do this day in, day out. The situations might not stress them out as much as they do you because they're so used to it. For example, maybe there's some things wrong with the house. You asked for $15,000 in credit, and the sellers come back with 5,000. Don't panic, don't worry. You made a request, they've come back with what they're comfortable with. Now you can go back again. It's not finite. You can go back as many times as you want. Maybe they'll ice you for 2 days. Maybe you don't hear from them. It's okay. Relax. Some people like to play games. Now, do I like playing games? Absolutely not. I like to be firm and to the point. But some people do play games. Just relax. Know that it's not always like this. Everyone else usually buying a home has to go through some grief. But also with the loan, when your lender asks for something, don't wait 2 or 3 days to get them it. Get them it ASAP. They're probably going to be reaching out a lot. You're probably going to have to give your lender a lot more information than you ever thought possible. Back in 2008, you probably know there was a crash, right? It was very easy to get loans. Since then, they've made it a lot harder. It's a lot more stringent, a lot more regiment. Because of that, you're going to have to send them a lot of information. Get it to them as soon as you can. The longer you wait, often then you might have to push back timelines. Then the sellers get annoyed. Then you get notice to perform, and it can be very stressful. So if your realtor's asking you to do things or your lender's asking you to do things, try and do them as quickly as possible. That way, it just makes things a lot easier. And when it comes to contingencies, usually you release inspection contingency first. That's how it kind of goes. 10, 11 days in, you've done the inspections, you've got your credit back, you can release that contingency. Then usually it's the appraisal contingency. 10 to 14 days, the bank, your lender, they've done the appraisal, it's come in okay, hopefully. Usually it comes in at value. Even if the appraiser thinks your home is maybe worth $30,000 more than your offer, they usually put at value, which is what your purchase price was, just to not cause any issues. So if you've made an offer for $623,200, usually the appraisal will come in with that exact amount. And then usually the loan appraisal is the last one, 14, 15, 17 days. But even once they've released the loan approval, and say you've released all contingencies, it's day 19, you've released all contingencies, congratulations. There's still going to be paperwork. You're still going to have to notarize stuff. Escrow is still going to be calling you. Your lender's going to probably still be potentially requesting paperwork. Don't panic. It's very, very normal. But yeah, usually, even if it's a 30-day escrow, there's 10, 11 days after all contingencies have been released that you still have to take care of a few loose ends. Often you go into the escrow office to sign the loan docs. So once your loan is good to go, your lender will send all that paperwork to the escrow officer. The escrow officer is the person that's handling all the money, making sure everything is done legit, making sure all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. So the money, the 3% earnest money deposit that you send that to escrow and they hold it there. And they'll make sure all the paperwork, everyone's doing it all above board. You can go in now. If you want a mobile notary, maybe you don't live anywhere near the escrow office. They can send a mobile notary, maybe $200-300 to your house, and we'll do all the paperwork for you there. But a lot of people like going into the escrow. They can notarize, and you'll sit down with the escrow officer and do all the paperwork because it can be a little bit daunting. Usually have to do that within the first 10 to 14 days, if you ask me. But then the loan docs will come maybe 3 or 4 days or 5 days before you close. You'll go in, sign the loan docs with escrow. Then once you know everything's good, then you will wire the remainder of the balance. So say you're putting 10% down, you've wired the 3% earnest money deposit in. Now you've got to wire the remaining 7% of the 10% down payment. You'll do that, and then the day before close, your mortgage company will wire in the rest of the money to the escrow company. And then the title officer, who's making sure the grant deed and everything's being switched into your name, will send all the paperwork to the county. Then the county reviews, and if they're happy, they record, usually somewhere between 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. on closing day. And then you should get a call from me saying, congratulations, everything's done. And then you get the keys that evening, usually 5 or 6 o'clock. You'll get the keys and you can move into the home. It can be very daunting buying a house, but if you're working with a realtor that knows the process, can put your mind at risk, can think outside the box, put out fires if stuff's going wrong, it makes it a lot easier. So like I said, I'm Matt Tilley. I'm a realtor. Reach out with any questions. If you're not in Southern California, you want to find a realtor, reach out to me. I have them all across the country. Who you work with matters. Trust me. From getting the offer to accepted to getting the escrow to day 30. I hope this helped. Please watch any other videos if you're looking to move to Southern California. I do reviews on every neighborhood pretty much. Hope to see you in my next video.